Jane Berger stared at the Sunshine and Shadows quilt stretched across the frame in the back room of Plain Patterns, the quilt shop she owned and operated. Jane wasn't sure who to give the quilt to, but she wouldn't worry about that now. She'd know when the time came. She stepped to her desk in the corner of the room and sat down, her hands falling into position on the old manual typewriter. She'd been struggling for a topic for her next column in the Napanee News. Along with quilting, storytelling brought her comfort, except when she was trying to come up with a new story to tell. That was the hard part. And over the last year, it had become more difficult. She stared at the white paper for a few moments, and then stood. Perhaps an idea would come once she was home. She gathered her purse and coat and then stepped out the front door, drawing in a breath of wood smoke. Her brother and sister-in-law, who lived in the big house, had a fire going in their stove. After she locked the door of the shop, she turned her attention to her little home across the road and the maple tree covered with fiery red leaves that shaded it. Autumn was her favorite season. The harvest, the changing leaves, the acrid smell of smoke in the air, the digging of the last of the root vegetables from the garden. She walked through the small parking lot of her quilt shop and then started across the road. She reached the other side and then, instead of going into her house, she headed to the backyard and settled into a lawn chair to watch the sun set over the field. At 66, was she in the autumn of her life? She smiled at herself. She could easily have a decade or two more to live, maybe even 3. Unlike most Amish women, she'd never married. At one time, she thought she might. But then the young man who'd been courting her left for Ohio to work for a summer and never returned.